This cargo manifest from 1643 lists 50 bales of silk, 200 pieces of porcelain, 12 chinos. That's Spanish for cargo. But they weren't cargo, they were Filipinos, and there were thousands. Picture this. The year is 1587. A Spanish galleon rocks violently in the Pacific waves, its hull creaking under the weight of silk, porcelain, and spices. But hidden in the ship's manifest under a single word, cargo, are dozens of human beings. Filipino sailors, servants, and slaves, stripped of their names, their humanity reduced to inventory. For centuries, their story vanished into the ocean's depths, until DNA started talking. The mystery begins. In a small Louisiana town in 2018, a woman named Marie Aubrey swabbed her cheek for a DNA test, expecting to find French and African ancestry. Instead, her results showed something impossible: 23% Filipino. But her family had been in Louisiana for over 200 years. How could Filipino DNA appear in a family with no known connection to the Philippines? Marie wasn't alone. Across Mexico, Peru, and even remote villages in Spain, people were discovering unexpected Filipino ancestry dating back centuries. The genetic breadcrumbs were pointing to something historians had long suspected but could never fully prove: a massive, largely undocumented migration of Filipinos across the Pacific Ocean, often shipped as human cargo. The Manila-Acapulco Galleon trade. To understand this hidden history, we need to go back to 1565, when Spain established the most important trade route in the world, the Manila-Acapulco Galleon trade. For 250 years, these massive ships made the treacherous journey across the Pacific, connecting Asia to the Americas. The official cargo: Chinese silk, porcelain, spices, ivory, and precious metals. But the unofficial cargo, the human cargo, included thousands of Filipinos whose stories were deliberately erased from history. These weren't just passengers. Spanish colonial records classified them as indios, servants, or simply cargo in ship manifests. Our goal on this video is to get 500 likes, and share your reaction in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on bell notifications. They were skilled sailors who knew how to navigate the Pacific's deadly typhoons, servants forced into servitude by Spanish colonizers, slaves captured during internal Philippine conflicts, skilled craftsmen whose expertise was exploited, women taken as companions, concubines, or domestic workers. The DNA evidence, modern genetic studies have revealed something extraordinary. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, a geneticist at UC Berkeley, analyzed DNA samples from over 3,000 individuals across the Americas and found Filipino genetic markers in populations from California to Peru, Mexico to Louisiana. What shocked us, Dr. Gonzalez explained in a 2019 study, was the sheer scale. We're not talking about a few isolated individuals. We're talking about thousands, possibly tens of thousands of Filipinos who made this journey and left descendants. The DNA tells a story that colonial records deliberately obscured. Filipino genetic markers show up in the Chumash people of coastal California, mestizo populations throughout Mexico, Afro-Latino communities in coastal Peru, Cajun families in Louisiana, remote fishing villages in Panama. The journey of death. The Pacific crossing was a nightmare. The journey from Manila to Acapulco took 4 to 7 months, covering over 9,000 miles. Ships carried 200 to 400 people in cramped, disease-ridden conditions. For Filipinos classified as cargo, conditions were even worse. Historical records from 1618 describe Filipinos sleeping in the ship's hold, among the actual cargo, with barely enough space to lie down. Scurvy, dysentery, and typhoid ravaged ships. On one documented voyage in 1657, 84 of the 120 Filipinos aboard died before reaching Acapulco. But here's what's chilling. When Filipinos died during the voyage, they weren't recorded in death logs like Spanish passengers. They were simply noted as cargo lost at sea. The hidden communities, those who survived, didn't just disappear. They built communities, often in defiance of colonial authorities. In 1763, Filipino sailors and escaped servants established the first Asian settlement in North America, St. Malo, Louisiana. Built on stilts in the bayous, this village of Manila men existed for over 150 years before a hurricane destroyed it in 1915. DNA evidence from descendants in the region confirms their presence. In Mexico, Filipinos concentrated in Guerrero and Colima states. They mixed with indigenous populations and enslaved Africans, creating unique Afro-Filipino indigenous communities. In Acapulco, a neighborhood still called La Filipina exists today. The colonial authorities deliberately tried to erase these communities from official records, fearing that mixed populations would be harder to control. But the DNA doesn't lie. The skills they brought. These Filipino cargo weren't just victims. They were experts whose skills transformed the Americas. Filipino sailors taught locals advanced maritime techniques. In California, they introduced methods of diving for abalone and pearls that Native Americans had never used. Archaeological evidence shows Filipino fishing techniques appearing along the California coast as early as the 1600s. In Mexico, Filipinos introduced Asian crops like tamarind and bitter melon shipbuilding techniques, textile patterns and weaving methods, culinary traditions that influenced Mexican cuisine, the Mexican poncho. Linguistic evidence suggests the word comes from the Filipino punchu. Certain fishing nets used in Peru, identical to those used in the Philippines. The women's stories. The darkest part of this history involves Filipino women. Spanish records rarely mention them by name, referring to them as female servants or Indian women. But DNA evidence reveals their presence throughout the Americas. These women faced multiple layers of exploitation, taken from their homes, shipped across the ocean as property, forced into domestic servitude or worse. Yet they survived, had children, and their descendants carry their genetic legacy. A 2020 study examining mitochondrial DNA passed through the maternal line found Filipino maternal markers in Mexican populations, at rates suggesting thousands of Filipino women made the journey. Their names are lost to history, but their DNA ensures they're not forgotten. Listen, this story is still unfolding. Right now, researchers are finding new documents, new DNA evidence, new descendants every month. If you want to follow this investigation with me, because that's what this is, an investigation, hit subscribe. And here's why I actually need your help. Drop a comment if you're Mexican, Filipino, or from anywhere in Latin America. Tell me your family's region. Because we're building a map, we're tracking where these genetic signatures show up. Your comment might be the clue that connects someone to their ancestor. This isn't just content, this is real research, and you're part of it now. The suppressed records. Why don't we know more about this? Colonial authorities actively suppressed information about Filipinos in the Americas. Spain maintained a racial caste system in its colonies. Filipinos complicated this system. They were Asian, colonized subjects, often skilled workers, but also enslaved or indentured. Their presence challenged the neat categories of Spanish, indigenous, and African that colonial authorities wanted to maintain. When Mexico gained independence in 1821, many records were lost or destroyed. The same happened when the Philippines gained independence. The documentation that survived often used vague terms that hid Filipino presence. Modern discoveries. The evidence keeps mounting. In 2021, archaeologists excavating a colonial-era cemetery in Acapulco found remains with distinctly Southeast Asian skeletal characteristics. DNA testing confirmed Filipino ancestry. In California's Channel Islands, artifacts including fish hooks and cooking implements identical to those used in the Philippines have been carbon dated to the 1600s, decades before the official Asian migration to America supposedly began. Parish records from Louisiana, when examined carefully, reveal Spanish surnames combined with Filipino given names, a pattern suggesting forced conversion and cultural erasure. The living descendants. Today, descendants are reclaiming this history. Maria Santos Lopez, whose DNA test revealed 42% Filipino ancestry, traced her family back to Colima, Mexico, where her ancestor was listed in 1743 records as a Indio-Filipino, a Filipino Indian. For generations, my family just thought we looked different, had different features from other Mexicans, she says. Now we know why. We're Filipino. Our ancestors were shipped here as cargo, but they survived. They built families. We're proof of that. Organizations like the Filipino-Mexican Heritage Society are documenting these stories, collecting DNA samples, and pushing for recognition of this hidden history in official narratives. Why it matters. This isn't just about correcting history books. It's about understanding the true complexity of colonial exploitation and migration. It's about recognizing that globalization didn't begin in the 20th century. It began with the violent extraction and movement of colonized peoples in the 1500s. It's about the thousands of Filipinos whose humanity was literally erased, reduced to cargo on a manifest, whose descendants carry their DNA but often don't know their stories.